Radio show, we would like to send a shout out to all of those people who are listening to us all across the world. As we often say, we are the best radio show from Como to the Congo. And also in certain parts of Cleveland, Texas as well. So that being said, hey, look out. We see you in Cleveland, Texas. We see you in Cleveland, Texas. We see the wheels of justice turning everywhere all across America. But you know what? They seem to be turning a little heavy in Dallas, in the city of Dallas for some reason. But that being said, we are turning the wheels of information headed your way on the Commish Radio Show. Stay tuned on Wednesdays on the Commish Radio Show when we have our midweek special. But as you know, every Saturday, this is the place to be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. right here in the Gray Stream, Gray, or as we say in Oak Cliff, Gray. So that being said, we are happy to have one of my good friends from Oak Cliff, Miss Carolyn King Arnold. How you doing?
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here today.
All right. We see that there's a lot going on in the city of Dallas. You know, tell us what's going on with you these days.
Well, with me, there's a number of things going on. You know, as a citizen of Dallas, and citizen and also as a representative of this city, as a council member, day to day, we're just working to address the issues of the community, trying to make sure that the needs and the voices are heard, and of course, in that position, working to make sure that I represent them in the manner in which they expect.
Now, you're running for re-election. It seems like every time you are here on the radio show, I say you're running for re-election. This time you're running for re-election because you fulfilled the unexpired term from the previous city council person, and then you were elected in your own right before that as well.
Correct. And it seems as if I've had probably about three elections, 3 or 4, it seemed like in the past, or perhaps I'm getting ready for the 4th, since 2015. So I was elected in December to complete the unexpired term of the council member. And so now, because that unexpired term runs into a new term election, we're running again to complete the 2 years election cycle.
Now, the election cycle that you're running for now, it's been a perpetual campaign. How many people running in this campaign?
Oh my gosh, well, there's a couple of them, I'll put it like that. I think maybe 4 or 5, somewhere in that number, but in that area. I guess prior to that, it was just 12 of us, and before that it was 8, so I think we're back down to 4 or 5 now.
Why does this district seem to get a lot of people run for it?
You know what, I think, now this is what I've been told, or suggestions, perhaps especially with the last one, is because it was an quote open seat. And so there were those, I think, who felt like since it's quote an open seat, it would be a good opportunity to run.
Lower it down just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And yeah, and this one, I really don't know. Other than this is a democracy, that's my position. This is this is a democracy, and people have the right to run.
Being that you're running for re-election, isn't it difficult to run for re-election when you've only been there for how many months now?
Well, just to put about 3 or 4, it's not difficult for me, mainly because, I had the blessing and the privilege of serving for 2 years, we'll call it 2 years, from 2015 to 2017. And so the knowledge that I gained and the experience just speaks so heavily in terms of coming back, and that was part of my campaign, being ready to go day one, which I never really clearly divorced myself from it, because as a community leader and a servant leader, I continued to work, and I've been working anyway since about 1980. So the community issues are not new to me. It's just getting in there and knowing if there were changes in policy, then there were a few. But at the end of the day, it didn't hinder me from being able to deliver the services.
Now, where exactly is the district?
Well, on my district, just a quick overview, to the east, 35, we go as far as I-35 and the bottom. Okay.
For those people who don't know what the bottom is. The bottom.
And then
That's the Trinity River bottom.
Yeah, we go as far south east as 45 in the Fruitvale area. And then we come back up to, coming back up, our borders would be in the Trinity, Ledbetter Trinity, Great Trinity Parkway, all the way up to Polk, Redbird and Polk area. So that's kind of gives you a big picture of where we are.
Now, housing seems to be one of the things that this district has been in the news lately, and one of the questions that I would like to ask you is regarding the recent scandal, if you will. It doesn't involve you personally, but you did receive a large amount of donations from one of the developers that was indicted.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think, I can't really speak to what, has he been indicted, but I know that was in the paper.
Right,
Okay,
not
is that true?
indicted.
All right, but as it relates to
He hasn't been indicted.
housing, that topic has been around probably forever, but I know even coming in the council years ago, the topic has been housing primarily, because it lends itself to equity as relates to the southern sector. And so I do understand that, coming in, to where I am now, you have people who are donating, and that was one of the individuals who did support us, just in terms of coming into being new, because that's when I first got the donations were in 2015. So it's just me coming in as a new council member, and I would imagine, and this does happen, that you have people when they have new council members, you have a new group of people who are reaching out to give support, and so sometimes that happens because you have also, and in my case too, I came in with an incumbent, I mean not with an incumbent, but with an individual who basically supported me as a candidate, you know, as if that was their person of choice, if you will.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and ask you that question because it was in the newspaper yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it was only fair enough to ask you.
Oh, and then, yeah, that's fair.
Now let's go with the campaign as it exists today. What do you plan on doing for the district?
Gosh, what have I been doing? Planning on and doing. I'm going to continue to serve, and that is my. Some folks think it's corny, but that is my calling. That's my passion. I do come to the table with over 30 years of experience as an educator. So my natural business, if you will, is that serving people, serving the community. And so I continue to enjoy just fighting for people who oftentimes they don't know how the process works, and it always gives me such pleasure and joy just to be able to solve just a problem. And I know that has just, it speaks volumes to the happiness of that person. And it may be something as simple as trash pickup. You may have something as simple as someone's illegal fence. It may be something as simple as helping someone with the water bill, but I just wanted to continue to serve and at the same time educate, because I realize so many of our constituents lack the knowledge of how government works, and they also don't have the knowledge of some of the and I'll say plans, but what I also enjoy doing is sharing with folks just the whole understanding of how business takes place in this city. Because while we're thinking day to day, there are others who are thinking 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the road, and then we just look up and it's just there, we're just there. And so it's just that type of service just brings joy to my heart, and it's just something I pray for, just the wisdom and guidance to continue to do that.
Now you said 30 years as an educator.
Yes.
Go into detail about the educational experience you have.
Well, I have the privilege of working in the Dallas public schools after leaving the private sector of Bishop Dunn. So I worked in Woodrow Wilson High School. I think that was probably about 10 years, and I just spent the 10, 15, and then I arrived with Ivana Talvey Magnuson. I always tell everyone I came with the building because we opened the facility in 1995. And I chose to go to that facility, mainly because of the commitment of, even at that time, Ivana Yule, who I had the privilege of meeting in college and was just so inspired to pick up her mantle. Durant, southeastern Oklahoma. And so I met her there from hookups here in Dallas. That's how I found out, because prior to that I was attending Austin Concordia Lutheran College. So I am a master, I have my master's in educational administration, and the bachelor's, of course, is in social studies and social sciences. So the government aspect of what I do comes very naturally too, just a great connect.
Now, that great connect, and you started off on the, well, you didn't start off on the city council. Did you have any other boards and commissions you were on before?
Well, yes, I served on the library board before I had to come off, because you have to come off when you announced for your office. But much of my other experience on top of school, because I always tried to make sure that there was a connection between school and government. I always had that connection, because I always wanted to make sure that my students were in touch with reality. You know, what I taught was one thing, so when they go to whether it's the commissioner's court or house city council, I would always teach them how to speak before the council. So the experience was there in that respect, but understanding that I served as a community leader, homeowners president, so just always in touch with a lot of these issues.
Now, the issues that are at hand right now, and we were talking about education, there seems to be a proliferation of charter schools in the southern sector. I hate saying that, in the southern sector. Every time you turn around, in the southern sector, you know it's going to be something bad that's going to happen after you say, well, in the southern sector, this happens.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're also working on. How do we rebrand so we're not the southern sector? And it just, because actually when you're reporting, you never really know where the southern sector really is when you look at the standard media. And even as we speak today, my impression with a southern sector would be, of course, what I represent, and another would be the South Dallas, but some still coin that as the southern sector. So it is somewhat of a challenge to get that done. But just as we move forward, I guess just repeating the question, you bring me back to that, because that kind of took me off for just a little bit, because that's something I'm really, really committed to. How do we change that conversation?
See, that's why you're here on this radio show. I'm just being real with you. Hey, it's like, hey, why we always call it? Call it like it is.
Yeah. So that's kind of something and it can be done. We can be branded. I think that's just coming together. But part of it, what I see, and it's kind of sad in our communities, where we just lack. We're not networked. We're not educated enough, in my opinion. And it does pain me when I'm looking at issues that will affect us 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and we're not knowledgeable of that. We're spending our time on making the minors the majors and the majors the minors. And so when we look at the big ticket items that affect, for example, my district, we have the Southern Gateway that's going to change the lives of people. We have the bullet train, the new construction on I-35.
Okay, that's where the deck part is.
Yes, and that's same. And I'm glad you brought that up, because so many people
let's go back to that question that I asked earlier about the charter schools.
Oh, that's right. That's why I told you had to bring me back, because I got caught on
the branding.
Branding.
Yes. Let's go with the charter schools.
Let's go back to but the charter schools are transforming our community as well. Because my impression is that 10, 20 years from now, the charter schools will become the public schools. Because if you keep going on at the rate that we're going now, with the displacement of and the competition with your public schools, that becomes your new public school system. And that's what we need to wrap our arms around and try to understand. Is that what we really want? Because even though you hear the argument, and this is me talking, that charter schools are educating and touching our kids in a much better way, but there are some situations where they don't have to put up with some of the challenges that we do in our regular schools, so they get to send the kids back, quote, if you will, to their home school, is what we used to call it when we were in the magnet school environment. But if the charter schools become the new public school system, then they become the same thing that they were trying to displace, if that makes sense.
Is there any way to stop the charter schools from coming into
Well, now you do have to understand that I think, yes, in schools, in neighborhoods, I think you do. You can. You do have the argument that some have choice, but when I look at charter schools and the way that I look at them in the past two years that I've been on the council and had to deal with them, most of those charter schools are coming in with a special use permit. Now that can be stopped. So yes, but oftentimes what happens is when the notification is sent out into the community, if you own your home, 9 times out of 10 you will get the notification. If you're renting your home, the notification goes to the owner. And so when you're asked to respond to, support or opposition, then that's where your issues come. You see what I'm saying? So folks are saying, well, I didn't know. And the other piece is, many times we don't see the sign that announces the potential zoning change.
Okay, folks, this is another message. When you see the signs that say zoning, and it has this long number after alphabet, call.
Yes, that's correct.
See what it is, because it may affect you.
It is. Another thing I would like to do on those signs is and it's going to take me a minute, but in my opinion, my push would be to reformat those signs so that people will pay attention to it. And so I'm looking at, I started doing this before I left council, just exploring other ways to present to the city manager that we can reformat that sign so it gets more attention. But I thank you for putting that out to him. We do need to call to find out what exactly is going on.
Now, we were talking about education, we were talking about branding, we had also talked about gateway, you were mentioning gateway, development. In your district, the northern end of your district, which is headed toward downtown Dallas, is on I-35 corridor, correct?
Yes.
So it ends right there at the bottom.
In the bottom.
Now, it's a lot of empty land on the bottom. It's just a lot of empty land. Like, in short, where there were once houses,
Yes.
there's nothing there.
But you still have, there are a number of empty homes, structures, you're correct, and there are some empty lots. And I have had the opportunity during the 20 plus years that I served at Ivana Yule just to watch those neighborhoods in transition. And so I am dedicated to that community there and just helping them to reorganize and also to begin rebuilding. The city identified that neighborhood as a stabilization neighborhood, I believe. And so we're able to put some dollars in there.
Okay, that's a big fancy
That's part
word.
that's part of MVA, and that was done before I returned to county.
Stabilization.
Well, you don't want it to just to roll over and just flat out die. And some people may look at it and think it's already dead, but the catch there is the location. When you go to that neighborhood, you're looking at a $20 million view. Is what you're looking at.
Of
That's
the
the
lake.
city. Well, the city skyscraper.
There's going to be eventually a lake there, right?
Well, now that had not come up,
No.
but in my opinion, when it's raining, it's already
It's
yes,
already a
lake.
lake.
But long term, that's valuable property. It's
Yeah,
a valuable piece of property. Even though you go to check on the market values down there, it may not speak to it. But anytime you have that skyline of the city.
And being a former zoning commissioner, and you're right, zoning commissioners, they look at something that's 20 years out in the future and everything. And we changed the name of, used to be Industrial Boulevard, and there's Riverfront.
Right.
So it rebranded itself, as we were
Correct.
talking about, from being an industrial center where you can go get someone out of jail to Riverfront now, which is going to have a view just like you described
Right.
of the river or potential lake,
Right.
as people were talking about at one point. What other kind of development do you have?
Well, let me just piggyback on that for a minute. But when you see the rezoning and then the rezoning and the streets change, it normally speaks to the vision.
Well, yeah,
And that's what
exactly.
happened here with the industrial to riverfront.
That's what I've always
Yeah,
said. I
yeah,
said
we have to read.
I tell the folks, and I say to the folks regarding, we get ready to take a break at the 2:30 mark.
Okay.
I'll tell them, just like you said, that anytime you change the name of something, you change the vision. Industrial, well, now Riverfront. Great Trinity Forest used to be Leadbelt.
Leadbelt.
And then also you have University Hills, used to be Houston School Road.
Yes.
So when they changed the name of Houston School Road to University Hills, well, rest assured there's going to be some development that's going to suit University Hills more so than it suits Houston School Road. And when we come back, we will conclude with our interview, but I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Commish Radio Show on YouTube. YouTube, if you're following us, this YouTube, Ed Gray 1906, and also on Instagram, it's Ed Gray 1906. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Wooten, and I'm the owner of Center of the